Meeting to order for the 17th of October, 2019. If you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everybody. We have meeting minutes that Debbie sent out 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. They were from September, the last meeting in September, which I was not at. Did everybody get a chance to see those?
Yes.
Any comments?
Yes.
Okay.
I just have a question. We voted at that meeting to send a letter to the Board of Selectmen. I believe it's on there. I was wondering if that's been done. Can we?
What was that in regard to again?
Faith, let me pull it up here, I think.
Because I think I sent them an email, not a letter.
Well, either, first vice. Just, you weren't at the meeting, I just.
Right, but I remember Lee and I had talked about it. I remember. That was about the regional
versus muni.
Right, so I did send them an email. I'll have to dig it up and send it to everybody. At the I think it was either the previous or the next select board meeting, I'd actually brought that up and asked them to formally open discussions of that in the process.
Okay.
To kind of look at it from Templeton. So I believe it was discussed at that joint meeting they had the beginning of this month in Phillipston. They've discussed it. I don't think it's gone anywhere since then, but it's something that we need to. So one of the issues I see with getting out of regional and just going local, I think is the term you used. I'm not sure if that's right.
I said municipal versus regional.
Is the middle school and the high school are owned by the district.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were looking at something, it would really be for elementary. But I think that's still on their list of things to do. So let me see if I can find the email.
I haven't heard. I watched the meetings. I didn't hear anything about it so far.
They haven't brought anything up since. My understanding was they brought it up at the joint meeting, but only. I think what they're trying to do is hold off anything until the school budget's decided.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything at the joint meeting either.
But I think that they need to. I'll find the email I sent and. I'll send it to everybody and make sure. So that would have been.
Yeah, just so we can, follow up on it, because it is something that, we all did vote for.
Yeah. Oh, here it is. Let me forward this to everybody. And tell me if this. Will suffice. I'll read it to you here. I sent it to the chairman of the Board of Selectmen. Said, Mike, I've been asked by the AC to request that the Board of Selectmen set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the current regional school, if the current regional school agreement is best for the town of Templeton.
No, that wasn't it at all. It was an ad hoc committee looking into financials of municipal versus regional for the town and what would be good for the town's direction to go into long-term, because we're having budgetary problems now.
What is the difference between?
You're just saying regional agreement? That's not the same.
You have to. Okay, so I think I know what you're saying is basically. Should Templeton just pay for their schools,
Phillipston
stay for their schools?
No,
what we're saying, what was said at the meeting was basically.
Right, so I wasn't there, and I should
right, no, and that's why I just want to kind of clarify. Okay. What was said at the meeting is that we were asking the Board of Selectmen to establish an ad hoc committee.
Right.
Okay, not for us to do anything or them to do anything, but for them to establish an ad hoc committee to look at the benefits to Templeton taxpayers of a municipal versus a regional school district.
Okay,
And that was what we actually voted on.
Yeah.
I read it this afternoon
Okay.
too, because I hadn't heard anything about it.
then I
so-
will send another email out.
Please.
To Mike. I sort of made a leap in that, in order to do anything like that, you have to change the regional school agreement. You can't just say, okay, we're
Well,
out.
We don't have
If
to
you're
do anything like that to
looking-
do it.
Yes,
No.
if your
If we
committee
decide
looking
Muni, we
into
would.
Okay,
municipal versus regional, then
So-
you're not even touching an agreement. You would be getting rid of it altogether.
yeah, but you can't just say, okay, we're out.
No, but if you
Yeah.
have a committee that is researching how you
Yeah.
do that, what
Okay.
the costs are for communities
Okay.
that have municipal versus regional.
Okay, I think, if you capture that in the notes, I'll send the email. I think we're thinking along the same lines. I'm just taking it to the point of, let's look at the regional school agreement, and my thought was in there, they'll look at what's best for the town. That if it means getting out, we get out, and then if not, we don't. I think we're saying the same thing, it's just different ways.
No, I think that what they're talking about, and I was part of it too, like just a little bit, but, is that really it's just an exploration. Because the regional agreement is entered into by other factors aside from just the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
So this would just be something to sort of look at it and then present to those powers that control the
Faith,
regional agreement for
Faith, would you me a favor? Will
information.
you craft up an email of exactly what you want and send it to me, and I'll forward that to the Board of Selectmen?
Sure.
Just so I don't mischaracterize what you want, and what you all were here.
Yeah, it was written in the meeting minutes, like
Yeah.
a good summary of the whole entire
Okay,
thing.
yeah, if you would just kind of do it, and
Okay.
then I will, I'll follow up with that. I thought what I captured was what you wanted, but evidently not.
And that's actually what I was looking for, Tony, because we didn't do that in the meeting. We used to do that, designate somebody who was gonna write
Yeah,
the actual letter.
yeah.
And in this, I mean, I'm just sitting there going, well, I assumed it was you. And we can't really do that because it puts you in an unfair,
Well, I wasn't
spot.
here, and then
Right.
after I think Lee and I had talked about it a little bit at the town meeting, and, I guess I thought I was paraphrasing what you wanted, so I think you just wanted a little more in-depth analysis of what you want, so.
and I do think that was because, when we read the presentation, for them to create the ad hoc, they have to do it as specific as possible, so
Okay.
the request should be as
Okay.
specific as possible.
Okay,
So
Okay.
that they have a direction.
okay.
That's all.
So it's almost like do this committee first, and then based on what this committee finds, should we change the regional agreement?
Move forward.
But hopefully it can all be done in this same year, because I think the regional agreement needs to be adjusted this year.
Right.
Oh, and that could probably be adjusted in this year during the process too.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe.
it's, you know,
Okay.
it's one,
Okay, I will, Faith, as soon as you send that to me, I will forward that to, I'll
Okay.
copy everybody on there. Other than that, any other comments on the meeting? So that's more of a comment on the meeting, but not within the minutes. You're okay with the minutes the way they were written?
yes, sorry, it was just
No,
of
no, no,
those
that's fine.
minutes, yes.
That's fine. So I'll entertain a motion to accept the meeting for minutes for the 19th of September, I think it was.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes for September 19th as written.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay. No further discussion. Bob?
Yes.
Faith?
Yes.
Amy?
I have to abstain because I wasn't here, right?
The 19th,
You were-
Oh, yeah, I
You
was,
were here
so
for the
yes,
last one.
yeah, yes.
yes.
Debbie?
Yes.
And I abstain. I was not here.
The next one's-
We didn't really have minutes from our last meeting workshop,
Because
did
it was
we?
a
Yeah.
workshop.
So our last meeting was a workshop, so we didn't do meetings, minutes, okay? Next on the agenda is the, Association of Town Finance Committee Annual Meeting. It's on the 26th. I think it's in, why do I think Westboro, but I'm not sure if that's right.
No, it's south of Foxborough, Bridgewater.
Bridgewater?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, you're right, okay. Is anybody planning on attending?
Okay.
I cannot.
Okay, and I don't think Will is, so.
Yeah.
Obviously, we pay for that, so if anybody does decide that they can go, I don't know if they put presentations out afterwards.
Yeah, I
They do.
emailed
It's all
them.
online.
Okay, great. So, we obviously have the budget for it if anyone chooses to go. Unfortunately, I'm out of town, so I won't be able to go. And I think everybody else is not, and I don't think Will's going, but,
And I will just say, I went to one 3 years ago, I believe, and went through a couple of their programs. One was capital planning, and it was very informative.
Mhm.
It opened your eyes to what other people are doing and how, it could actually work. And it was nice.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, we went last year and it was very informative.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely agree.
okay. Yeah, any further discussion on that? Probably not. As we know, the 22nd, we have another joint district meeting. My understanding from watching the Board of Selectmen meeting last night, that they are going to once again propose the 19.5 number. I didn't get to finish it. I know there was some talk about possibly offering up some free cash to maybe cover it, but I don't know what they came up with.
They discussed it, when the school got back to them. They couldn't come up with any logistical payments that would be just for like CapEx one time
Okay.
in their budget, so the only thing they moved forward with was the amendment on the
I heard something
19.5.
about a tractor, but,
They had a couple items that, potentially could squeak if they wanted to, but it wouldn't.
what vehicle is the school gonna use to plow?
I have no idea. I think they're buying a truck.
Okay, well, that would've been a capital expenditure, so, okay,
But-
so,
They went through it.
I don't know if we wanna take a vote on our position on the 19.5 since it hasn't been presented. I mean, I think I know, I personally am torn on which way to go because, for obvious reasons, but, based on the cuts, the potential cuts. So the school committee, I mean, they sent out a letter, or the superintendent, about what things could be cut. And I don't know if that's what they would cut, and I know one of the cuts would be highly unadvisable, but I'm biased towards that situation, so. But then Jeff made a compelling argument yesterday at the Board of Selectmen meeting, that maybe they already have the money they need, they just don't physically have it because the end of the year money hasn't come in. So it's kinda like counting on money you don't have, but you do have to, everything's a projection, so. I don't know, I have no idea what the school committee will do.
I almost wish the Board of Selectmen would allow the 1978 number to be voted on at the next district meeting. Because at that point, and I know I'm not in favor of it, but it makes me feel like maybe that's the only vote that's gonna make the school committee work a little bit more together. I know they feel they've already cut, I know they feel they've already compromised, I'm not trying to get into that again. But, I guess there's just part of me that feels like if, again, we sit together as a district and again bring that number forward, and
I think
again,
we're just gonna, we're
the
wasting
group
our
is
time.
allowed to vote.
The last meeting, though, they did bring the original amount that the school committee wanted, and then we had a discussion about it, and then we voted to bring forward the amended amount.
Okay.
So they did do it a little differently.
No, Mike,
I remember that.
no, Mike
I remember
Curry,
immediately
no,
knew
Mike
right
Curry,
He stood right up. And
yeah,
made
he
the
stood right up.
amendment.
But we had the discussion on the first one, and then we voted to see if we wanted to move to the amended
No,
amount or
nobody, no,
not.
that was, all the discussion, so as soon as,
Cause we voted and
Mr.
then we
Henshaw,
voted.
No, right, so what you're voting on is, he put together, as soon as he came up and made the amendment, all the discussion was about the amended number, so you're voting on whether you agree to the amended number being the motion, then you vote on that as the number. We never ever discussed the 19.768.
Well,
It's confusing.
Mrs. Hughes did bring out the warrant, for the higher number.
She did, no, that she
And then
has
we had the
to.
discussion, and then I think by the taxpayers voting that they were willing to move on to the amended amount, that they were saying that they didn't want the higher amount. That's how I understood it.
No, so as soon as she brought that amendment up, as soon as she brought the original warrant article up, Mike Curry stood up and said, we'd like to change the number from 19,768 to 19,500.
Right.
Okay, so then all the discussion is around that number. There's no more discussion on the 19,768 number until that's either voted, no, we're not gonna accept that motion to amend it. So the first motion is to amend it, that's the first vote.
Right.
And then the second, once it's amended, then you can have discussion on, okay, now that new warrant article is 19.5, then you have to vote on it.
But the way what I was trying to explain, maybe I said it wrong, is because we voted on if we wanted to have that amended amount or not.
Right.
If people voted no, then they
Yes.
could have brought up that
Totally.
original.
Yes,
And the taxpayers are voting, yes, we want that amended amount. So
Yes.
it is being discussed and they are
Yes,
getting the
yeah.
choice.
Okay,
yes,
yeah.
there is always, yes, the choice has been presented every time, for sure.
Okay.
But I guess what I'm saying is, would there be, just for the sake of discussion, would there be power in the Board of Selectmen not bringing that number forward straight away?
Is there a number?
Because it is confusing for
Yeah, it
most
is.
people.
It is.
I mean, it's confusing for us and we're in it.
Yeah.
So I think it is a little confusing. People forget what number they're voting for, and all the discussion gets heated and emotional because
And then-
it's,
Then if you notice, as soon as the vote's over, someone's right away, a motion to adjourn, so you can't bring it back up. Once there's a motion to adjourn, you can't bring the number back up.
No.
Cause you can within an hour, but people want, as soon as you're adjourned, then you're out. I was just wondering is there a number lower than 19.768 that the school committee would accept?
I wouldn't vote for it.
I mean, as a private citizen, I wouldn't either, but it's an interesting discussion. I mean, having watched the school committee meetings, I've not been able to be there, but
I
it
went
is
to
my
one.
personal feeling that I don't think they would take a number lower. It's just my personal private
No,
opinion.
And I'm not gonna bash the school committee like a lot of people on social media are, and it's really a select few of people. I think they believe that's the real number they need. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't think they're trying to screw the town or not be cognizant of what the voters are. There's the argument that, well, 300 voters or 220 voters is not really representative of the town. Well, more people can show up. Okay, if maybe people just don't care, seems to be the people that care that show up, and right now it's predominantly the people that want the lower number. I mean, my logic tells me, yeah, it's not a good enough sample size. I'd like to know the demographics of how many of them have kids in the school system and.
That's the process.
It is the process.
Just on the other side of the foot, it's usually the people who aren't in favor of the school budget who are going, well, it isn't fair that the school uses their megaphone to, promote their side of the story.
Mhm.
And, the townspeople are just left wandering because there's no unified voice.
You're right.
So then we get the whole process is horrible. I mean,
I would agree with that.
and, hopefully, the one thing from my perspective that we get out of this is cleaner numbers next year. I hope the process
too.
gets cleaned up, and I think, I've talked to Dr. Casavant, he seems to be on board, he's looking at the things and seeing why we're so confused.
Yep.
So hopefully the numbers in town, the school, we get them a little cleaner each year, and, I think that will help the people in Templeton and Phillipston to vote yes.
I mean,
I do.
I wish we had the money to fund it all.
Yeah, amen, right?
You know, I mean, that's, and I understand it's, there's gonna be cuts somewhere, and, you know, there's gonna be people say, well, we can't take it from the kids, but then other people say, well, what about the rest of the town residents? And they're both equally, plausible arguments. Nobody's wrong in their argument. The only thing I see wrong in some of the stuff I see is people think if we voted for the 19.768 that your taxes are gonna be raised. No, they're not. Taxes, it's just gonna set the tax rate, but by voting that number, no taxes are going up. 'Cause
Not
there was no override.
immediately.
No,
This year.
no, there's no override.
Right, not immediately, but if we
Next year.
vote for that high number, we cut our public safety, then how do we get that back?
Well, that is part of the argument.
So that's longtime
Right.
residents are looking at that like,
Right.
okay, we know the deal, this is what happens
Yep.
if we spend more than what we have.
Yep.
Then it's the taxpayers that are looked at to compensate the difference.
Well, they are, but they're not. The only way they can do that is, okay, taxes are going up 2.5% every year, whether you like it or not.
Right,
That-
yeah,
that is
everywhere.
just, it's the law. And then this year, we're getting hit with the valuation. So your taxes, most people's taxes are going up a lot. The tax rate
And then
itself isn't going
exclusion.
up, huh?
And an exclusion,
What, oh, for
$800,000 in debt for the new school
oh,
from the bond from last year.
This year.
right.
That's why we went up, our budget went
Right.
up $1 million, 800,000 of that is also for the school.
That's right. Wait a minute, we didn't vote a debt exclusion.
I
That
thought
got
that was for
turned
the
down.
police station.
The
That's-
bond,
The, bu-
well,
well, no, I mean, there is money, your taxes are going up for the 24 million that we agreed to pay for the new school. Is that what you're
well,
talking about?
well, they're not technically going up for that because that's been built in over the last
Yeah.
few years. Right now, all I was saying is there's $800,000 of the town's budget, of the $9.6 million town budget, 800,000 of that is for debt on Templeton School.
Isn't that to buy at lower rate?
Excuse me?
Why is it,
No.
wait a minute, why is that?
That's the payment on the $12 million bond we took out last year. That has nothing to do with the bands that we have on top of that. That's just the fixed payment.
That's not out of the town, well, it is out of the town budget, yes,
Mhm.
but that's built into the tax rate.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah, and it will be for the next 30 years while the school's
And
being
more.
paid off.
But yeah, and more
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
But that's, I'm just
Yeah.
pointed it out that, you know, there's
No,
that,
no,
then
okay,
there's.
you're right, and just like
you know-
there's the $2 million for the police department, that's amortized over the 30 years too, cause that was gonna be a one-time, $1 million, 1-year deal, and then when the price went up, now they went and did, an override for, or debt exclusion for that.
Yeah, and those haven't
Yeah,
kicked
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
yet.
you're right.
There's like 14 million still sitting out there on that we gotta get a bond for coming up, or 12 point something for the balance of the two, and, but on the school thing, if I might just indulge for a second. See, I just, and that's getting to my point of what I was looking at. Last year, the town's budget was $8.6 million with the $470,000 override for the fire, public safety. This year, it's 9.6, and the town's gone up $200,000, the town's share. The $800,000 of that increase is just going for the debt for the school. And if you look at this year's budget for the school, couple things come to light. Last year's budget was 417. And they ended up with $500,000 in E&D this year. So that means they utilized 18.1 last year.
Okay,
So this 19.5 is $1.4 million more than last year to the school, of which they say 340,000 is the expense of the new school. It's $1.1 million in additional money this year. the percentages don't add up. I mean, we're at, 9% for the school, year after year, gonna kill us.
Well, you're right.
But, I mean, there's only X amount of money, and with that 19.5, the school is getting, significantly more money than last year. And the town only has to cut $71,000 out of its present budget.
And I wonder if that number's accurate, because
Which number?
the 71.
Got it last night.
I know, but the reason I say that is, did they factor in the 19.5 budget unless Phillipston, so you go by the share ratio, Phillipston already voted, whatever their extra amount was, they voted for it. I don't know if they readjust that, and maybe there's $50,000
That was a
coming back to the town.
recalculation they were doing here.
They did do that? Yeah, okay, all right. So, you're right, I've seen a lot of different numbers that don't make sense to me, and you and I were in the meeting with Dr. Cassavant, and they showed us what I thought were their numbers, and it's like, okay, I see where their problem, I saw,
That was a
they
lot
they
of
don't
sense.
have any money, but, so, yeah.
That seems to be the biggest constraint we come to every year. If the school budget is going up by 9% and taxes go up by 2.5%, how do you afford it?
You're right, it's a good point.
We got an entity that can go up 2.5% with a total, debt levy, I mean, our max levy is like 16.5 million is what we can get to. That's less than the school's budget. And they're going up 2.5%. Just
But
there's
it's
no
not-
money.
Yeah,
There's no money.
but it's not, right, so I think they're at a little disadvantage of, they opened a new school and they don't truly know the costs of operating it. I mean, I think their estimates are probably high,
Mhm.
which really, when you
Yeah, but-
estimate, you have to do it.
I did hear someone say though, because we hear all the time about the new school being opened, we didn't hear anything when the other schools closed and what costs they didn't have to apply then.
Yeah, I don't know if they factored it, I don't know how they did the math, honestly.
Yeah.
For each out to say, okay, we were spending, $20,000 on fuel oil for, Baldwinville Elementary, but this school's bigger, so based on that usage, if you're using an old clunky boiler as your paradigm for how much you need, it's probably not apples to apples, because you got a nice new system here, and so I think it's really probably 3 years before you get the true cost of operating. Because what if we have a mild winter this year, or we have a really cold winter this year? So, I don't know, do we wanna wait and take a poll at the meeting Tuesday if they do present the budget, or do we wanna have a position now?
Well, the last two, we voted on the warrant as it read, which right now is the 19.7. The first time we did, I believe we took a quick poll at the meeting. I
Yeah.
mean, we can take a quick poll now just so we're prepared for it. I don't know how you wanna do it.
It doesn't matter to me, I mean, if, I don't think our position's changed, except I didn't vote the last time because I wasn't here, but I think something.
I just don't know what the, I don't know what the right
I'll tell
answer
you-
is.
I'll
I feel
tell-
like-
I'll
That was
tell-
nice, look at down here, I'm like.
So I will, no, I'm not looking, I'll tell you from my position, I think because of inherent bias, I would abstain, and I think I already know how everybody feels about the other one, so.
I don't know what the right answer is.
We already know they're gonna change it, so I guess my recommendation would be, we'll take a quick poll at the meeting, then we'll be there, hopefully.
Okay.
And we'll just have our position if anyone asks.
I'm fine with that.
I'm
Okay.
fine with that.
All right, I don't think we have any old business. Has the capital planning met?
Yes. We met the other day, talked a little bit. We don't have any public members, so if anybody's interested in joining the capital planning committee, come on down. But We're gonna have an interesting, agenda. We have a lot of, we have a lot to do because it's seemingly we're missing, old paperwork. There was a transfer issue, so, we have some work to do. We're gonna be putting together some new forms. We're gonna start interviewing the departments, believe the beginning of November. And we do the police department.
So I guess I would ask is, at our meeting subsequent to a capital planning meeting, if you think there's anything you wanna report, just let me know and I'll put it on the agenda.
When we actually get into
Yeah.
the meetings, yeah,
Yeah.
I will bring,
Okay,
yeah,
okay, I mean,
what we
I don't-
did, any
Just,
relevant
just as an
information.
idea, I don't know that, and I think it'll more help us for the budget season, going forward. So one piece of old business open issue kind of thing that I just found out about is the sale, or the potential sale of, Baldwinville Elementary fell through. So the information that Adam gave me was that, the company backed out. So I asked them if they, I haven't got an answer back, but I asked, are they gonna reopen the RFP process? If that's the case, then we'll probably ask somebody from this board to, sit on that. My recommendation would be just change the dates on the current RFP, but then instead of giving people 30 or 45 days, let's give them 5 or 6 months to respond. Because one of the things of feedback that we got was some people didn't have time to put a proposal together for like housing and stuff. So we only got one back in that short time. So that would be my recommendation, but I'll wait to hear from Adam on that, and we'll figure out where we go from there. But, so, I think it'll be on a warrant article, the fall town meeting. I think they estimated about $15,000 to winterize the school.
I was gonna say, Carter talked about it in pretty good detail last night at the meeting. I don't remember the detail well enough. to
I'll
review.
watch the rest of their meeting, I just wanted to see their school stuff. I got home later than I expected today. Other than that, I can't think of any other old business. New business, I thought of this after. So, technically, this is one with 5 Thursdays, but the 2 weeks from now is Halloween.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if anybody wants to have a meeting on Halloween.
No.
I'm guessing no. So the next meeting after that would be November 7th. So we could have it, but one of the issues we're running into now is, I believe the 20th is gonna be the fall town meeting. I don't know if they've set that date and if that is set in stone, but if it is, then we need to have a pre-town meeting. So, we could do it on the 7th, but I'm not sure, I'll have to look back at Carter's emails of when. I think he hopes to get the warrant to us on the draft warrant on the 24th.
Draft form by 10/24.
Right, so do we think the 7th, or do we wanna do an out-of-cycle meeting on the 14th, is that right?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do an out-of-cycle meeting.
So have a meeting to discuss the warrant on the 7th, and do the pre-town meeting on the 14th.
Yeah.
I think that would be good.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
And I'll put, I'll get,
Did you say on the
I'll get-
7th, Tony?
yeah, I think it's the 7th.
Okay, because I was gonna say, on
Is that a Thursday?
Carter's list, the 7th is the day that we get the packet. For this
For the-
upcoming, yeah, for
isn't
the
it for the
district
budget?
meeting,
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah,
It's late.
And that's tentative, yes?
yeah.
Uh-huh.
So what that
Yes.
packet is on 11/7 is, and I didn't know why they were doing this, but I got the impression from his email that they're making an assumption that the school committee is gonna accept the 19.5 number. Okay, so, and that's what, so if they don't, then that packet may be, more involved in what we're gonna do, so,
Right.
I just read that tonight, and I gotta send an email back to him and ask a few more questions. So obviously, like public information, so I think that I think what this is on the cuts to the town. If the town has to make cuts, that's what that's gonna be. And we, even though we recommended, they did say that they will have a public information meeting to discuss it with the public of what would be cut. So I think that's good on them to do that.
And Carter did mention if we have any input, any suggestions that we'd like to put in, he'd appreciate them
Yep.
early on in the process.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to get an update of their cuts and what they think. I mean, I hope we can get the police department their officer back and the fire department get their salaries back where they need to be and, I mean, especially the people that are out there keeping us safe. Of course, all the people that said, well, we need the roads plowed, you can't get to school if the roads are plowed. Well, if they need to be plowed, school's canceled that day anyway, so. So that'll be the plan then, is we will have our next regular meeting on the 7th of November. And then, I will get with Holly and schedule this room for, the 14th, that's the next, right?
Yep.
The 14th, for the pre-town meeting.
Oh,
And I'll
Ah,
make
sorry.
sure I get,
Sorry.
I'll make sure I get the ad out to the Gardening News. And this way, that'll give us a whole week to, we'll get to discuss the warrant articles and then between then a week to, so we should have plenty of time to discuss I think it's important that we discuss it as a committee first.
Yep.
And then, next week vote could change things. I don't know if whatever the vote is next week, what the school committee's gonna do when their next vote is gonna be, so.
well, their next scheduled meeting would be that following, not the 29th, but the
They may,
first
yeah.
Tuesday. They meet the first Tuesday.
But I don't think they have to vote on it. I don't think it's a requirement.
No, I don't know what their requirements are as far as that goes.
I think if we don't approve it this time, we just go to December 1st and the state. I think that's the
I agree with that.
role.
I'm tired of just showing up to meetings, same people getting up saying the same thing. Nobody's really convincing people one way or another.
We're just going
This
with the motion.
process is tedious.
Yes,
It's, yeah,
Yeah.
needs to be updated.
yeah. And there was a suggestion last night at the meeting on a method to do that. I don't know.
You have to change the bylaws, so.
Yeah, yeah. Pretty much what the suggestion was, I believe.
That's for the town meetings.
Yeah.
It would have to be the state that changes the way the regional is done.
Mhm.
I know,
That can be changed too.
other new business, Jeff and I spoke, I think it was at the last thing. Remember how we changed this committee's bylaws, but they never really got in because we wanted to get to codification? He hasn't forgotten that, and so I think that's still on the table. So we'll wait until we have.
For the special town meeting in the fall?
No, I don't think it'll be for then. It'll probably be the spring, the fall annual town
Okay.
meeting. And it'll give us time to discuss that. I'll have to get that out to, Faith and Bob.
Yeah,
Try
it'd
to
be fun
just-
to revisit that after
Yeah.
working on it for 9 months.
Yeah.
Carter just sent that out to the attorney to review.
Oh, okay.
Because it was the version that was approved, I guess, by this committee last year. Is just sending him off. It's got some issues that I guess he doesn't like, but,
There were a couple of really delivery date issues of documents to us that he had issue with. Other than that, I think he was fine. Personally, the original changes that a previous Board of Selectmen wanted to make, I think basically tried to neuter this
Right.
committee. And I didn't appreciate that. You can't tell the people's voice what they can and can't say, yeah, and we put a lot of work into going over that and changing it, so, I will dig that back up and make sure you and Faith get a copy of that,
Thank you.
Well, and clearing up redundancies too,
yeah.
within the
Yeah,
bylaws
right.
themselves, like
Yeah.
in one paragraph to say one thing and then contradict itself
Yep,
specifically regarding this committee,
Right.
just to clear it up.
so,
And that was Jeff's comment last night when he's talking about changing their bylaw too in relation to who is responsible for presenting the budget.
Yep.
You know, who presents, who defends, and
Yep.
so on and so forth, because that, you know, it is written in the bylaws, very messy. Cause, you know, written over time. But, you know, it should be cleaned up, because we gotta stop discussing that and
See
just
that,
move on,
right, so we pay these companies all this money for publication.
and they don't do it.
They should be catching, inconsistencies or contradictions in the bylaws.
Pretty nice.
I mean, that's what they're paid to do, but they don't seem to do it, so.
I got an email in here somewhere about that
Yeah.
during the process.
So, okay, anybody else have any new business?
You hit it.
Any member comments?
I just would like to make a comment. Yes, I would, just a quick one.
Sure.
I don't know if, you know, I know some of you said you had watched part of the selectmen meeting last night. But I just wanna say that I appreciate last night, the finance team came in, spoke their piece on what they thought of some of the suggestions that were being tossed around and so forth. And I appreciate that, and I, you know, let them know that personally today, because I think that's what we need. You know, a unified voice and a voice that says, this is it, this is the fact. You know, not, you know, so that we can get through the speculation, through the questions, through all the, you know, oh, well, they said over here, and over here they said this, and over here they said this, who cares, this is the fact.
Right.
You know, and it was very nice to hear and to see, and that's a change in this town. And I appreciate it. Just wanted to say it.
Yep. Faith?
Fine.
Amy?
No, thanks.
No. Ted?
I'm good.
I do wanna make one comment, cause it was just one person, but on social media, kinda made a statement that this board had a new stance on the use of free cash. And I quickly corrected them that this board does not have a new stance, this board does not have a stance, or voted on stance on the use of Templeton's free cash to solve any budgets. We have not discussed it, we have not, well, I say we haven't discussed, it's probably not, we've discussed it very little, but we've never taken it a vote. I questioned it at the last meeting, was as a private citizen. I got up away from our table and asked, but I also did caveat that with saying, have we thought about it, but I need to talk to the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator before I think it's a good idea. So I just wanna make sure that, you know, people knows that this board has not advocated the use of free cash. I don't know if it's the right thing or not. So I just wanna make sure that's cleared and on the record.
Very good.
Excellent.
All right, and with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.